Real confidence is built on a very strong, sturdy foundation. And it comes from really knowing yourself, being able to be who you are, no matter what room you're in.
You're listening to Say It Anyway, the podcast for people who know they're meant for more and are done holding back. I'm Maggie Marcus, and here we talk courage, self-trust, and what it takes to lead yourself, even when it scares the hell out of you.
Be yourself, be yourself, be yourself. Oh man, if any of you have seen that Ryan Reynolds and Amy Smart movie, is it Best Friends? What, I feel like I have the title wrong, but it's something like that, right? And like the mom of Ryan Reynolds' character is like singing that to him. It always gets in my head. We I don't know why that gets stuck in my head, but it does. Like, we talk about being yourself. Like, it's something that we have to try at. We have to try harder at, especially in this day and age with like AI. Like, I'm scrolling through social media the other night and I keep getting content that's just like, like for, calling out AI and calling out people who are using AI in their content because they feel like it's really obvious, and people just wanting more authenticity. It's kind of like we're competing with efficiency and our humanity. It's like we use ChatGPT because it makes our lives easier. But at the same time, when we're overusing it or we're outsourcing our creativity or our knowledge or our critical thinking to things like chat, we end up, not being able to express ourselves as well, not being able to think for ourselves. And we tend to lose credibility with people when we're substituting ourselves for this robot, But I've just been seeing this call more and more for authenticity, be yourself, express yourself. And it feels like almost, and I get it because I love that. And that's part of my messaging too, is, being able to authentically and courageously express yourself. But it feels like there's this effort to be more you. And lately, I've been realizing that authenticity isn't something that you do, it's something that you stop doing. You don't have to become authentic, you already are. That's your default. Like if you were sitting in a room doing nothing by yourself, you are authentic. That's you in your default. The real work is interrupting all the habits that taught you to edit yourself in the first place. Being yourself doesn't take effort. Monitoring yourself does. And what I've come to realize, because a lot of the times when I see this content that's like, be yourself, put yourself out there, be seen. And I get it. Again, I talk about a lot of that stuff too. But being yourself doesn't always mean being bigger and bolder or louder or more confident or more expressive. Authenticity doesn't always need to look like that. Like most of the time, at least for me, it feels like relief. And it feels more subtle. It feels more quiet. It kind of feels like, when you exhale and you didn't even realize that you'd been holding your breath? That's kind of what it feels like. It's dropping the effort and coming back to your home base. You stop bracing, checking yourself, trying so hard to make things sound good, to make things sound right. You stop pretending and performing. And you stop exaggerating your reactions for other people. This is the one that I always detest. And I felt like I needed to do it with people. I didn't realize it, right? It's like looking back, I recognize that now. But you know what I'm talking about. When someone comes up to you and they're like, in a very strong reaction to something, or they're sharing a story and they're like, it was so crazy, or, or they tell you something dramatic and they're very much in it, you can tell, and they're expecting you to match them. And match how crazy it was, how weird it was. And it's like you feel like this need to put on, whatever it is that they're expecting from you in your reaction. And to me, that just feels fake and forced. And I don't need to have an exaggerated reaction to feel, that we're connected in a conversation. Sorry if that triggers anyone. I've just been noticing that. I'm not willing to do that. I'm not willing to overreact, just because you had that reaction. So you stop doing shit like that, And here's the thing I want to say too, is I almost felt bad for not doing that because I'm like, I'm trying to make that person feel good, and feel like, and for them to like me, for them to feel like, oh, they're on my level. But I realized that I don't need to do that. I can still be grounded and react authentically. And if that person needs me to match them at that level and that kind of dramatic, exaggerated reaction, I don't really know if that's my person anyways, And so you stop doing shit like that, and you stop laughing. Here's the other one that I love. Stop laughing at shit that you don't actually think is funny. Yeah, I get it. I know. Sometimes I do this too. I give a little chuckle or a smile because I feel a little awkward if someone says something they think is funny and it's not. But all I'm saying is we don't need to over give or fake it and perform if it's not true to us. It's not necessary. If it doesn't feel good to you, if it doesn't feel aligned or feel right, then stop. Stop doing that. Authenticity isn't needing to change or add more of you. It's subtracting the protective parts of you that you don't need anymore. The parts of you that you learned to make yourself more likable and more palatable to other people. You've changed and shifted and played chameleon and adapted yourself and these little habits and these little behaviors so that you don't have to face the fear of being judged, misunderstood, rejected, yada, yada, yada. You know the story. I went on a walk with my fiance and his daughter the other week, and we were just casually strolling, normal. We're walking. We're not even talking about anything really important, but I remember I was talking about something. And I finished whatever I was saying. And after I stopped talking, I noticed something. It was this weird feeling of I went, oh, whoa. I zoomed out for a second and I realized I hadn't been watching myself. This is something that, I'm not talking about all this stuff from a completely detached place. I'm talking about this stuff because this has been my experience, and I've been someone who's been working on all of this stuff and noticing this stuff. And so I zoomed out. There was a second, and I remember that moment so clearly. I zoomed out and I said, I just realized that I felt differently. I wasn't trying to put on anything. I wasn't trying to make myself more interesting or say something that was acceptable. I wasn't watching their faces or their reactions. In fact, I couldn't even see them because we were walking and it was dark. I wasn't adjusting myself mid-sentence. I wasn't in my head thinking about what I was saying. I was literally just flowing. And I realized I had forgotten to watch myself. It was such a weird, out of kind of body experience. But I felt the difference. I really felt the difference. I knew that I had dropped my guard in that moment. I had dropped my internal editor. I had dropped the habit of trying to be palatable. I wasn't exaggerating. I wasn't shrinking myself or managing. I was literally just expressing myself. And I just noticed the difference between when I allow myself to just flow and talk and not be in my head and think about what I'm saying or watching myself as I'm saying it. And it just happened naturally. Isn't it crazy that self-monitoring has felt so normal that the absence of it was so noticeable? That's the part that was wild to me. That's been my normal, and I've operated that way for so long, being on guard, being hypervigilant, being aware of myself, so overly aware of myself, self-conscious of myself, that when I wasn't in that state, how noticeable the difference was. I think it's amazing. You know, it felt like relief, like a breath of fresh air. And it wasn't even something that I did. It was just something I stopped doing. Like I momentarily forgot myself. And in a time, like I said, where AI, all this stuff is taking over, we don't even know what's real anymore. Authenticity is becoming very precious. And noticing these patterns gives us relief from a lifelong strategy of being on guard and protecting ourselves, being cautious, being unwilling to allow ourselves to be seen as we are, for who we are. And having that awareness gives you choice. Awareness creates conscious choice. And it allows you to choose differently. Because if you've been running in this automatic way and you've been hypervigilant, it's so exhausting. Oh man, it's so exhausting. Like you don't realize it until you drop it, how heavy that is that you've been carrying, how draining it is. To be constantly bracing, monitoring, vigilant, scanning the room, figuring out, like, even on a like a very like not conscious level, just like adapting yourself, changing yourself, thinking about what other people might be thinking of you. You know, it's like it's so freaking tiring. It's so freaking tiring. And this is so important because noticing this gives you freedom. There's nothing more freeing than being able to relax into yourself and being able to bring your ideas, your opinions, your creative, your creativeness, your energy into this world is going to be even more important and so much more needed as we move further and further in technology and advancements and AI and all this stuff. Like you are a gift. And it's that allowance of just being, relaxing into yourself, not trying to do authenticity, not trying to be authentic, not putting effort into it, literally just releasing the shit that hasn't actually been empowering you or serving you. Because all it's been doing is protecting you. Like if you let go, like set down the armor. This is what I'm trying to say. Set down the fucking armor. Set down the armor. Like that's what I'm trying to say. Set down the armor. So you don't have to do your way into authenticity. You can just set down what isn't allowing you to be authentic anymore. I think when it comes to authentic expression, I think a lot of us think that the fear is looking dumb or being misunderstood or not fitting in. And while that might be there, what I see more often is the deeper cost. Not being able to relax around people. Like that, it's so exhausting carrying that armor. It feels so heavy. Like speaking from experience, I know. And it's just like as outgoing as I am, and as much as I love people and as charismatic as I am, I still feel really awkward around people. And if you're like me and you have that, you also probably feel like people don't really know you, like the real you. And like me, maybe you feel like your relationships have kind of stayed very surface level. Even though you want more. Like I truly value connection. Like I deeply desire fulfilling relationships in my life, but I haven't always let myself have that because I've been too busy slinking around this really heavy armor and putting up a wall and being guarded because I was so scared that if I was really myself, that other people weren't going to resonate with that, weren't going to like me. And the cost of that really for me is just like not feeling like I can relax, not feeling like, I think that's the biggest thing. It's just not being able to feel at ease and feel at peace. And with that, feel confident, truly, truly confident. I think you can come across like you're confident, but a lot of times it's like a deck of cards, right? One flinch and it falls. Like real confidence is built on a very strong, sturdy foundation. And it comes from inside and really knowing yourself and accepting yourself and being able to be who you are, no matter what room you're in. But what happens a lot of the times is we're just hyper vigilant. We're monitoring, the people around us. We're monitoring ourselves. And what happens when we're in that is things like, you really start to edit yourself. Like, you ever been talking in your mid-sentence and you change direction? Like, even though you know what you were trying to say and what you mean, you are so busy monitoring the other person and looking at their facial expressions and their body language and how you think they're receiving you, that you change yourself in real time, in that moment. Like instantaneous self-doubt and pivot. Or like you end up trailing off when you actually had a very clear point, or you're rambling because now you're nervous about, if they're accepting what you have to say, if they like it, or you're afraid they're gonna have a conflict with it, or fidgeting. Like, you ever been talking to someone and you're just like playing around with your sunglasses or whatever's on the table, and avoiding eye contact because you're maybe afraid that what you're saying isn't good enough or funny enough or insightful enough, cool enough. And then because you're doing that, now you're reinforcing your fear, which is being awkward a lot of the times. Like, when you're doing that, because you're not confidently owning who you are and what you have to say and what you think and who you be. And I know most people aren't trying to be fake. Nobody wants to be fake. I don't think it's purposeful. It's just something that we learned somewhere along the way to protect our hearts. And if you're already a pretty self-aware person, you've done some of the inner work, I think this gets even trickier because you haven't always been authentic. And maybe you're aware of some of the strategies and the ways that you have protected yourself and put your walls up. So now you're trying to be authentic, and suddenly you're watching yourself even more. You're in your head, you're checking how you sound, you're trying to land it right. You're like, I know I haven't been, am I being authentic now? Like, is this authentic? And without realizing it, this attempt to be authentic becomes another form of self-monitoring. I've definitely fallen into that trap myself. Self-awareness is healthy. Emotional intelligence is important. Being able to read a room, and be attuned to other people is part of navigating relationships, navigating situations. And there are contexts where adjustments are appropriate, no doubt. Like, work meetings, certain social gatherings, talking with a superior, certain relationship dynamics. If you're in a sales or a pitching meeting, you've got to be able to read other people's tone and facial expression and body language, and maybe shift how you're coming across to be able to better connect and meet someone where you need to meet them. But constant self-monitoring is different. And I think that this nuance is important. I think that what it really comes down to is the intention, your come from. When are you monitoring from a place of insecurity and a need for their approval? or from a conscious and intelligent place where you're making a choice, but not losing sight of yourself. It's like if I'm sitting at the dinner table and my mother-in-law says something that maybe I don't agree with, me choosing to stay silent is not necessarily a sign of me being agreeable for her approval. I'm making a conscious choice from an emotionally intelligent place that says, okay, I don't agree, but keeping the peace is more important right now. Or this isn't the time and place. I don't need to assert my opinion, even though it's true to me. So being able to understand and see that nuance and know that when you are monitoring yourself, being able to make conscious choices, where is the come from? So just an invitation to notice this week, where do you notice yourself editing in real time? Like, where do you stop yourself mid-sentence, switch points, just to meet a need for being liked or being approved of or whatever it is? Where do you trail off instead of finishing your thought? Where are you performing instead of truly relating and connecting? You don't need a new personality. You don't need to try harder, be more authentic. The most authentic you shows up when you stop trying to get it right. Authenticity isn't something that you do. It's something you stop doing. You're already authentic. You just need to interrupt the patterns that have taught you not to be in the first place.
Hey there, thanks for tuning in. If this episode hit home, spread the love. Maybe share it with a friend or drop a comment. I'd love to know what landed for you. And remember, your voice matters. Whatever you're holding back, say it anyway.